Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gail Morgan welcoming you to the Libertarian Counterpoint's Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. You've heard their point, now listen to the counterpoint.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. It is July 28, 2021. And as always, during a Biden administration, there's a lot to talk about. But before we get to any of that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon the Word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. And in our upper right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. Before we, my name is Jason McKean. I'll be your host today. Before we get into anything, I just wanted to let you guys know that I just got back from FreedomFest this last week, and so that was kind of an interesting conference in Rapid City, South Dakota. They had to. The background on that is a little interesting. Normally they hold that in Vegas every year, but they got canceled last year with the COVID issues. And let's see, we're sharing. This is the. There we go. Yeah, so this is the FreedomFest page, and if you actually search for it now, you'll start to get some info on the next conference that's set up for next year. But normally they set this thing in Vegas, but last year with COVID, for a libertarian conference, it got shut down because Vegas just wasn't taking any chances with COVID. So they moved it this year to the red state of South Dakota, where Kristi Noem is governor, and she was also a speaker as well at this. And so that was, it went off pretty well for the most part. We may have a few guests lined up in the coming weeks from the show or from the conference, people that I was able to meet there and we thought might be interesting guests on the show. So we'll be bringing some of them on, but just for any of you who aren't familiar with it, it's about a 3-day conference, and some of the people involved, notables like Dave Rubin, Drew Pinsky, and Hersey Ali. Hopefully our next governor, Larry Elder, was there, and I got my picture taken with him and got to talk to him.
Wow.
So that was fun.
You're Robin showed us with important people, huh?
Well, just for a little bit. I also got to talk to Spike Cohen, who was there as well. He is the vice presidential candidate. There he is. Anyways, so hopefully we will get a few guests coming up in the coming weeks, and so it goes. Anyways, and this is something we're hoping that we'll be able to attend in the future, and I definitely recommend it for anybody who's sort of liberty minded and wants to engage in a conference with dynamic people in this area. I certainly learned a few things.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I can't think of anything else related to this topic. Did you guys have any other questions?
I had a question. So I was looking through the speakers that you from the information you provided, Jason, and I noticed that Naomi Wolf was listed as a speaker.
Yes, she was. She was. Oh yeah. Sorry.
I'm sorry. If I could finish.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have any problems with anybody and whatever they believe and that kind of stuff and things like that, but I don't know how Naomi Wolf would end up in a place like FreedomFest. I mean, she is a known leftist feminist, as far as I know. I know recently she ran into some difficulties with big tech because of some things that she had posted online, and I think she was twice suspended and that kind of stuff and things like that. But I didn't know how she would have ended up in FreedomFest.
She was. I saw one of the talks that she was involved in was something on feminism and not sure if it's feminine and liberty or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the topic was. And she was also there, I think, for a book signing, and she may have been there for one other talk. I'm not sure. They weren't really things that I was geared towards. That's one thing about FreedomFest is there is a lot going on. So they have a few events on the main stage that most people hear, but in the afternoon there's like 7, 8, 9 different rooms going on, and you only have able to choose one of them, so you wind up missing a lot of stuff. So that wasn't really anything I was geared toward there. But if you're definitely interested in things like crypto or interested in issues with free speech online, all kinds of topics related to libertarians, they have lots of booths too, as well, for things related to the Second Amendment and, trying to get kids oriented, young people oriented into liberty as well. So just a lot of interesting people, a lot of people running for office and other things. So it's really a chance to sort of get out there and network with, a lot of dynamic people in the liberty movement.
Fair enough.
And hopefully we'll be able to put in a little more time on this in the upcoming shows. So anyway.
I have a question for you. You said you learned a lot. What was one of your, if I asked you what thing you learned there that made an impression on you off the top of your head right now, right here, what would you say?
One thing that really struck me, and I hadn't thought about it in this way, but I was listening to a panel with Larry Sharp, and hopefully we might be able to get him on the show in the future too. But it was about Zoomers versus Boomers, and the only reason I went to that talk was because Larry Sharp was up there, and I wanted to get to hear him on one of the talks in the day. But anyways, one of the other guys on the panel, they were going back and forth, and he brought up the term we often hear, facts don't care about your feelings. He said, but with a lot of these guys on the left and a lot of these young people, you really have to understand that for them, feelings don't care about your facts. And I really thought that was a good insight because, I really kind of got along with that. Facts don't care about your feelings, but you really got to understand your audience, when you're trying to reach people. And for some people, they're, since feelings don't care about your facts. So.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, indeed. I believe it was Ben Shapiro who came up with that facts don't care about their feelings. But this is some deep insight when you talk about the leftists. Already.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you want to keep your audience in mind at all times.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think let's move along to the next topic. Actually, there's a bill coming to, I guess, attention in Florida where they're trying to, I guess, it's sort of the flip side of all of this, defund the police. It's a little more on the police side of things, and it's to give, I guess, make it illegal if a police officer tells you to stay back. You got to stay back like 30 feet with, when police are, I guess, going about their business. And that's kind of an interesting one. As far as, you can kind of see where things are coming from their end. If you're a police officer and you're trying to deal with a dangerous situation, you don't want somebody running up with a camera in your face while you're doing your job. But, 30 feet is kind of a long distance too, for if you're a person who just happens to be, interested in seeing what's going on. And if a police officer tells you to stay back a full 30 feet, I don't know. That's kind of an interesting thing, the idea that would criminalize that. And so there's concerns about potentially that interfering with your First Amendment and ability to, I guess, film what's going on in some of these encounters. So I don't know. What did you guys think about this? It seems like, maybe a step too far. I could see on my end, I could see maybe 10 feet, but 30 feet seems, a little excessive. And what if you just happen to be standing there and the police officer says, you got to stay back. And that means you may be standing doing something. And now suddenly you have to move back 30 feet. I don't know. It's kind of weird. What do you guys think about this?
I have a real problem with this bill. Okay. Now, I'm not into demonizing the police, not at all. Okay. I want police officers around. I think defunding the police, we have seen the results of that in the major cities in America. However, this bill goes too far. Okay. Because I think it infringes upon our rights as citizens to see what public officials are doing, especially police officers who are acting in the name of the state. I mean, when I say acting, they could actually take a life in the name of the state on the streets, just like that, okay? Whether it's justified or not is something for us to determine after the fact. However, we as citizens have the right to see what government officials are doing. And I understand the fact that there are times that a police officer may need to keep you back at a certain distance for them to do their job. I fully understand that. But I think we already have laws on the books to cover that, where if a citizen is interfering with the police officer in the performance of his duty, we could prosecute that citizen. Fine. And I accept those laws. But this, by telling people you have to go 30 feet back and the subjectivity of the police officer is a thing that's going to be germane in this law, no, I don't think we should support this law. I really don't think. I think it infringes too much upon our liberties.
Well, yeah, he said it. And the only addition I can make is that it surprises me that it comes out of Florida. But,
right.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what Leon said. I really, what are they going to do? To be cautious, you wouldn't go right up to the 30-foot mark, what you estimate it to be, without measuring it. You would err on the side of safety, and the officer would err on the side of safety too. And so 40 feet becomes, or the 30 feet becomes 40 and 50 feet. And, it's all under discretion. Nobody's out there with a measuring tape. So,
Right.
I agree 100%. And everything Leon said.
Something you said as well, Tim, that you said it surprises you that it came out of Florida. And in a way, it doesn't quite surprise me because it's Florida is kind of a solidly red state, and it appears that this is sort of the danger for libertarians of getting too comfortable, I guess, with the right in these times where the left has just gone crazy.
Yeah.
So I mean, we tend to find some alliances with these red states, but sometimes they go a little too far in the other direction.
Oh yeah. And we're here to criticize the right and the left with reckless abandon.
Tim, thanks for making that clear. Quite frankly, yes.
Well, speaking of reckless abandon, Tim, now's a good time to jump into our Good Guys with Guns segment. So what do you have for that on us on that end today? Yeah,
Good Guys with Guns. There's a little part of the story that I'm going to add to at the end. But anyway, so here's what I got from Fox News, July 8th of this year. 12-year-old fatally shot an armed man who broke into his family's house in Louisiana and threatened his mother. Authorities said that's not a good thing to do. The home invasion happened June 30th near Clinton. News outlets reported Brad LeBlanc, 32, was armed with a pistol when he encountered the unidentified woman outside her house that morning, according to Sheriff Jeffrey Travis. We'll be using his name here. LeBlanc forced the woman inside and a struggle broke out between them. Her son, who authorities haven't named, feared for his mother's life and shot LeBlanc with a hunting rifle, Travis said. The Vidalia man was pronounced dead at a hospital. Travis said his office doesn't have evidence at this time that would incriminate the boy, and there aren't plans to bring charges against him. There are not. The local district attorney, as usual, will decide whether the shooting was justified when the sheriff's office finishes its investigation. Travis said his office doesn't... The sheriff told WAFB-TV that he's been in close contact with a woman whose home was broken into and that she has started taking steps to get her son help after the shooting. The mother is understanding that he's going to need some treatment and need to talk to people and helping him understand that he's a very normal person that was put in an abnormal situation, Travis said. Okay, so that's all my addition to this. Just recently, having read some accounts on Quora from people who struggled with PTSD for decades before finally just deciding, I need help. I'm not sleeping. They had all kinds of issues, and that's after successfully shooting and killing someone in self-defense legitimately. And so humans are not meant to kill other humans, and all this stuff, when we talk about good guys with guns, is, basically countering the left's attack on guns. But we don't want, or at least I don't want anyone to think that, that we're taking this stuff lightly, because it alters anyone's life that has to go through a self-defense shooting and successfully makes it through. It's still going to alter their life in a negative way, and we want to recognize that fact.
This. You raise a very good point there, Tim, about PTSD. And some people don't realize how tragic this thing could be in terms of PTSD. One, I know some son, but this lost us this PTSD, and it's a very, very tragic thing that people do not realize. And I could imagine this little kid, 12 years old, being placed in the position. You said 12 years old, right?
12, yes.
Yes. Being placed in the position where he had to kill someone to defend his mother's life.
Yeah.
This is, God, you could imagine how that kid could be feeling right now as we speak about this.
True. So anyway, so for anyone that is struggling from PTSD from previous issue like this, we would, at least I recommend they seek help because it's not normal thing to do. And then, this also is true for people coming back from our numerous wars all over the place. Unless you're a psychopath, you usually have issues when you take another life.
Indeed.
Human life, at least.
Human life, at least. Yes.
I don't mind the quail and the pheasant that I've knocked.
Oh yeah, or the chicken, or the lamb that I eat.
I mean, the quail were cute. I'll grant you that.
Yeah.
They're also good.
Well, it's a great example of guns being a tool here, and this was one of those cases where it was a necessary tool, and I guess used in the right way. So it's unfortunate, but it's would have been much more unfortunate if it maybe
it got gone the other way.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But I mean, I think this thing that we are doing here is a really good thing, because too often all the left do is to put on all those criminals and all those gangbangers on TV. That's the people that put on TV using guns to kill other people. And that's what we hear on TV. Oh, this gun violence is so bad. Those gun violence is so bad. Like if the gun says jumping off the ground and starting to shoot people. It's not the gangbangers doing it. It's the people. It's just those guns just jumping off the ground and just starting to shoot people at random.
Well, and as though just telling a gangbanger he's doing something illegal with that gun is suddenly going to make him stop. Oh, you mean this is illegal? Okay, I guess there's a law. I didn't realize there was a law.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
All righty.
Okay. Well, on to the next topic. This is kind of an interesting topic. We've been through about 4 years, during Trump, of just all kinds of, crazy, uncivil things, I guess, said about him. And, in some cases, he was a little bit, raw too in his language. But I mean, the stuff that was said about him, it just goes beyond the pale as far as any president we've had in history that I can recall. But as far as that goes, there was a case recently with Biden where there I guess it was in New Jersey where
yes, it was.
And there was some lady who put a sign up in her yard that said F Biden. And I won't spell out the full word, but I think you can fill it in yourself. I have confidence in you. But,
it had 4 letters.
Correct? Yes. 4 letters. And it ended with a K.
But in this case, the town tried to suppress her and say that it was illegal for her. They called it, I think, indecent speech or something like that. And so so under some indecency clauses, they tried to force her to pull her signs down. And they wanted to fine her, I think, $250 a day, I believe it was, for every day that she kept those signs up. And so in this case, kind of a rare case recently where the ACLU jumped in, against Team Blue. They were actually defending this woman's right to put that sign up in her yard. And so eventually the town pulled the lawsuit against her, pulled the action against her, so that now she's free to keep those signs up. I guess, it seems a little uncivil, but I mean, I definitely sympathize the way this Biden administration is going. What do you guys think about that? I mean, is this going too far, putting signs? I mean, we're in a new normal for speech, related to our politicians.
I'll just start off. As a pilot, I'm no stranger to 4-letter words, especially when the plane starts acting up or the autopilot does something I don't want it to do or something. However, that's just between me and the plane. And this hits my sensibilities that in this day and age that people go out and do this. I don't think they should. However, I think they have the right to, as it goes back to the old thing that just because you can doesn't mean you should. But I do believe that our First Amendment rights, in this case, overwhelm the sensitivities of the town, even though I would be sensitive to that too. I've seen that flag on the freeway, local freeway. I've seen it on the back of a pickup truck. And
I have seen it too. Yes.
You haven't seen it? Yeah. So I chuckled about it and all that. I mean,
remember they had songs written to Donald Trump that said this, that they blasted on the radio. Literally said F Donald Trump.
Oh, really? Okay. Yes. Oh, well, yeah. So anyway, yeah, there we are. What do you think, Leon?
Well, Jason, you're right. The way you set this up about all the indecent things that have been said about Donald Trump during the 4 years, and nobody ever tried to prosecute or anything like that, anyone, for some of the things that they said about Donald Trump during his term as presidency, of his presidency, and things that they continue to say about him. But I think the First Amendment is absolute, except for those exceptions that the Supreme Court have laid out. Now, I don't like my neighbor. I don't think I would like it if my neighbor put out a sign like that. I think it's uncivil or incivil or whatever the correct word is.
Yeah.
But profane speech, indecent speech, offensive speech is all protected by the First Amendment. As a matter of fact, that is why we have the First Amendment, to protect speech like this. As much as we hate it, but it should be protected. Because if the government can decide what we can or cannot say, then we are all in big trouble, lots of trouble. And that is why I think that 1971 case of the Supreme Court, I think it was Cohen versus California, it came out right here out of California, where offensive speech, no matter how offensive and profane it is, as long as it's not inciting violence, as long as it is not crying fire in a crowded theater, offensive speech is protected speech. And we must hold to that as dearly as we can.
Well, yeah, I definitely, our free speech is definitely one of our most sacred freedoms. This brings us up to that point in the show. I think our Knucklehead Noise Patrol, this would be a good time to get in, because you talk about offensive speech or goofy speech. Here we go. Knucklehead Noise Patrol is something where we try and bring up something silly that somebody has said. And in this case, it is CNN's journalist Brian Stelter was interviewing Carl Bernstein on his show.
I don't think you should call that guy a journalist, but it's okay.
Well, he's the best they got. That's the norm for CNN, I think. But anyways, so they were talking on his show, Reliable Sources, and now they've dreamed up a new way, I guess, to go after Trump, and it's that he's apparently a war criminal now. It's hard to understand what war Trump was in. Did that, but anyways, let's go to the quote. So Bernstein was on the show, and he said, "I think we need to calmly step back and maybe take a look at Trump in a different context. He is our own American war criminal, of a kind we've never experienced before." And Stelter says to him, "You just said war criminal. What do you mean war criminal?" And Bernstein goes on, "I did. In international law, there have been, quote, crimes against humanity. I think what we're talking about, Trump's crimes as an American war criminal in his own country that he has perpetrated upon our people, including the tens of thousands of people who died because of his homicidal negligence in the pandemic, putting his own electoral interest above the health of our people, as they were slaughtered in this pandemic." I mean, is this news? I mean, is this a news channel? I mean, is this just a lefty fantasy? He's slaughtered. They were. it seems to me we're using the vaccine that was generated through Trump's what do they call that, fast track or whatever it was that
Operation Warp Speed.
Operation Warp Speed. Yes, it just is amazing the rhetoric and the language these people use. And then now he's a war criminal. It just seems more ways to try and burn him at the stake. What do you guys think? This just
Good. Well, I don't know. Let me start. This guy's. I keep using that word, don't I? Okay, I'm going to use a new one. He's an imbecile. Okay, and he, this whole idea behind killing people in the people were going to die. I mean, a certain number of people that are weak and old, like me, or well, at least old, are going to die from COVID, and it happened all over the world. I mean, to say, the percentages in the United States weren't that different from everywhere else. In some cases, better, many cases. So anyway, the guy's a total nincompoop. And however, though, and Trump was, if anybody was a war criminal, it'd be all these presidents that have waged war in the Middle East under false pretenses. I might remind them, such as wars, weapons of mass destruction, you name it. Oh, how about the Gulf of Tonkin, which killed numerous people in Vietnam? A lot of people, including Americans, all from the Gulf of Tonkin incident, totally fabricated. Okay, and nobody even disputes that. Okay, so in pretty much every engagement we've gotten into outside of World War II were propagated by sleight of hand and lying by the federal government and usually the president. Okay, so those guys are not war criminals, yet Donald Trump is because of his actions. Seriously, so anyway, that's all I have to say. How about Leon?
Carl Bernstein at one time was a good reporter, okay? His reporting exposed corruption within the Nixon administration, and because of his reporting, Nixon was forced to resign. So I have to give him that. But this man have gone bananas, gone nuts. Seriously. Everything now, this is worse than Watergate. That's his new line these days. And now I guess his new line now is, Trump is a war criminal. Listen, Mr. Bernstein, it was China who unleashed the virus upon us. You hear? It was China. So if Trump is a war criminal by your definition, what the hell are you going to say about China? You want us to go bomb China? Is that what you want us to do? Because if Trump is a war criminal, then the Chinese must be something worse than that. So please, shut up your idiotic mouth. Thank you.
Well, we've about reached the end of our show. It'll be a crime if we go on any longer. So I think we're going to have to wrap it up there. But thanks so much for joining us for this one. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the next one. Until then, stay free.